Here's how you can know what's good for you and test it for you and right for you. One of the things that I love that you talk about is you talk about the need to get rid of, just focusing on a random diet or following a random diet and actually looking at like eating habits and patterns that work for you. And so just putting a little footnote for everyone who's listening, the book will walk you through how to make sense of how to know what is right for you, what is wrong for you, whether you should do something, which I think is like the biggest anxiety driver for so many people when it comes to their health. When it comes to food, I think fasting has become trendy. It's become a big thing that everyone's talking about. We hear so much about every single diet in the world. There's always a new one that's coming on the surface. How have you helped people one-on-one actually discover what's right for them? Because I found that my eating patterns are very different to the trending habits of how to eat food and even fasting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, as you said, it's just letting people understand that the less you can pay attention to social media fads and your news feed on Google or whatever, the better. Acknowledge that there is surprisingly little known about the relationship between nutrition and health. And people are going to be shocked to hear that, because I think most people think the exact opposite. Most people think that nutrition is the most important pillar of health. And the reality of it is, outside of very extreme states, that's really not true. And the very little bit we know about nutrition just frankly speaks to the challenge of scientific inquiry into something as difficult as nutrition to study. And the reason for that is you can't study us as humans very well. We're very messy subjects. So we're not like mice where, you can put us in a cage and control what we're eating and follow us through the duration of our lives. It doesn't work that way. So when you're trying to make inferences about nutrition in humans, you have to rely on poorly controlled studies called epidemiologic studies, which are fraught with all sorts of limitations that I talk about in the book. Or if you're going to control the study, you can only do it for a very short period of time. There's only a short period of time in which I can control exactly what you're eating. So as a result of that, we don't know a lot. So I always want to start with, what do we know? Well, we know that protein is a very important macronutrient. There are 4 macronutrients: carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and alcohol. People kind of forget alcohol, but it's important to understand it's very caloric. And so it constitutes a source of energy. It's the worst macronutrient, but nevertheless, it's, you'd be amazed. Sometimes people are getting like 15 to 20% of their calories from alcohol if they drink enough. So protein is really important, and it's not a source of energy the way carbohydrates and fat is, but it's a structural macronutrient. And so I always start with that and say, look, rule number 1 is you have to make sure you're getting enough protein. And this is especially true if you're over 50. Because if you're over 50, you start to become resistant to the effects of protein. That's called anabolic resistance. And loss of muscle mass in people over 50 is a significant driver of mortality and a significant driver of poor quality of life. If you really start to think about it, even if a person is of sound mind and they're not, suffering from some intractable disease later in life, a great source of misery is simply being physically unable to do things. Mm-hmm. After that, it really comes down to, what do we understand about energy balance? Well, we understand that too much nutrition, I call this overnutrition, is bad. And that the body historically developed lots of tools to store energy, because that's what allowed us to evolve the way we did.